Howdy, folks. Hello, Cape Codders. Welcome to another show, another episode, perhaps. Today's date is May 21st, 2015, and this is show number 21. Now, I just did show number 20, and I got talking about something I call the future fishermen of America. And something I've always wanted to start up would be sort of like a future farmers of America. And so this would be based on all my work and my life as a fisherman, that I would put all this, these opinions and knowledge, I think in that order, into it. And as you know, I specialize in this market quota system. I'm published in that. That's on my webpage, environmentalfisherman.com. And I can remember back then when I started that little corporation, which I did some house painting and I tried to keep it alive. But the corporation needs some help. It's basically defunct and belly up. And I'd be willing to give that to these kids that should have a corporation. Now, I called the name of the corporation Environmental Fisherman and not fishermen for a good reason, because I didn't think most fishermen that I looked around on Nantucket were really all that environmental. And on the Cape, New Bedford, whatever, you know, fishermen were not centered on, you know, green fishing and environmental. There are some fishermen for sure. I don't know what the percentages would be. But as, let's say, a hardcore environmental fisherman, and in my day I was kind of scorned for the work I was doing. They'd shake their head, you know, with the kinder, gentler dredges, things like that, and different proposals to bring about the scallop revival for the East Coast, not just for Nantucket, you know, but for Cape Cod. Now, this future fisherman of America could take on these projects, and that would be a good idea. Or we could call it the future fisherman of the world. That might be the thing these kids want to do coming up. The problem with kids coming up in the fisheries is that the existing system of fisheries management is a feudal system right out of the Dark Ages. It's based on ownership of the commons, which refers to the tragedy of the commons. If you know anything about the history of fisheries, that was the battle cry, you know, too many boats chasing too few fish. So we had to do this giveaway to a certain few people. Oh, and then we'd have conservation. Well, the conservation never materialized to any degree. I would say not at all, because if you do the basic math, we've been going downhill. So much for worshiping fishermen, okay? You need to be off of this deferential page of, oh, what do the fishermen want to do? You know, that's not good enough right there. And the public on Cape Cod should apologize to, as I put it, the codfish apology to Nebraska. I still want to do that. That's on a previous show. You know, we're out of codfish, and we should take it. It's our fault. It's the fault of Cape Codders that the United States of America has no codfish. It's our fault. So the future fishermen of America could possibly energize the country. And these kids need to be non-deferential if they're going to save this country. You kids, you young people, you know, under 30, as they say. It doesn't matter what your age is. But anyway, the future fishermen of America, you could be 95 probably and join. My friend Louis Pina, he was 95 riding his bike to work to mow lawns. So, yeah. My father-in-law's 87. He's out there working. World War II veteran. Amazing. People are amazing. Now, wouldn't it be nice if it was centered in on the Cape Cod, this future fisherman of America, maybe even in Barnstable, to start it? And I'd like to donate my boat, which is a 16-foot 1972 Century Raven hull. It's a good hull. And then my cullen board has rotted away. But I did put in new fiberglass stringers and a plywood deck that's fiberglassed in. That might be okay. I'm thinking that's pretty good. And the boat has an aluminum A-frame, which is very safe and good and lightweight and strong. And it comes with a lot of dredges. I think I got 11 or 12 dredges, scallop dredges. These are the kinder, gentler dredges, which have no chain bag, but instead have chafing gear. So they're kinder and gentler to the eelgrass and to the seed scallops especially, but just basically better for Mother Nature. If you've got to scrape the bottom, do it gently and gingerly, you know. And when I mention a lot of fishermen were not really environmental, just to illustrate, on Nantucket, there were some fishermen who would just cull, and they'll say, this is the cullen board, you got a pile of eelgrass and scallops and whatnot. And they'd be culling, and they'd be towing. Behind them, their dredges would be full. And you could see them towing for a long period of time, much, much longer than what they needed to be towing to fill the dredges. And then when they'd dawn on them that, okay, it's time to haul back because they finished culling. See, with me, it's all about making a short tow on the bed and doing a minimal impact on the bed, and then shutting the beds off. These are scallop beds. When you've caught maybe 60 or 70% of the scallops, and then you basically shut them off from dredging so that the beds can be healthy. So these are issues that I would push with the future fishermen of America, and I could teach these young kids my philosophy, and other fishermen could teach their philosophy to these kids coming up. And kids are smart. I know my 4th grade kids in Sunday school were really smart when I taught Sunday school. And I had the program of anti-tobacco and anti-marijuana. These 10-year-old kids are dead honest. And that's when you really got to pour this good stuff into kids, when they're, you know, ready for it. So I think the future of the oceans of the world depend on the youngsters coming up, because these green people now, Greenpeace, environmental people, other organizations, you're not cutting it whatsoever, because you're part of this deference to fishermen too. All these green, liberal, you know, or even, I shouldn't say liberal too, because I don't want to do that. It's not right. I don't like it when I see the liberals getting blamed all the time for everything from my right-wing contingent. I think a lot of this business with the fisheries going south was because of conservatives looking at the deal, and they were saying, oh, good for business. You will give away public resources to business. Isn't that nice? That's stupid. That's just as stupid as giving away the national parks. And that was legitimately proposed by some right-wing people back in the 60s, I think. Oh, they could do it much better. Oh, so have we done it much better? Has industry done it better for fisheries? We're going to give everything to industry. We did that. What a disaster for the American people. That deference is stupidity. You got to do your job, okay? So these future fishermen of America, these youngsters and kids, they get a hold of these issues. They'll steer you in the right direction with this these proper systems. Now the market quota system as it relates to a scallop bed would do things like incentivize the better scallop dredge. Now we can do that inshore, and we can do it with the sea scallops offshore. And there are other ways to get scallops off the bottom. We can use robot pickers that are using cameras. There's no real need now in the year 2015. Is that what year I said it was? Sometimes I wonder, because these systems are backwards. These are backward systems. People protect these backward systems because they've got a stake, a money stake in these failed systems. But the future fishermen of America, we can start it with this little skiff of mine. Tremendous little boat. I mean, I had it circumnavigated Martha's Vineyard once and did a tour of the vineyard. This is years ago. I remember going through the ice. It's an excellent ice-breaking boat. And I got it launched up onto the ice. I had to get up and push the thing back and back down. Just one of the best boats I've ever had is this little Hurricane Emily skiff. It's a fisherman's boat for scalloping. But it's one of the best I've ever had over the years. It's a good little sea boat for the size of it. You know, you can't really have a good sea boat if you're tiny, but for the size of the boat, it's pretty good. What else can I tell you about that boat? It's got a trailer. I loaned the trailer out to a guy. He busted the axle. I never got paid back. That's all right. And I got an old truck, and I've been keeping this stuff kind of like a fool, just pinning my hopes on material goods. This boat and truck, this old 1986 Ford Ranger. It says environmental fisherman. It's kind of pathetic to be paying storage on that. So anyway, the wife and I have decided to move to Florida. So I said, I'll get rid of the boat and the truck. Stupidity after hanging on to those things for years, pinning my hopes on these material objects. It's foolishness. But maybe there are some youngsters that'll watch this show and they'll want to learn about the kinder, gentler dredge. This is a scallop dredge that does not hurt the environment as much. Maybe these kids will be interested in the market quota system. And there was a Harvard economist, Fred Jennings, and he changed the name of the system, and I agreed to market quota system VP, which means value price, and that means simply that we put a value price on everything good and bad in a fishery system. So if it's good, if it's like, you can put value to anything good, like a safe boat, that the Coast Guard doesn't have to go out and rescue you. You know, that costs a lot of money to go out and rescue people. So if you've got, you know, an old slab and it's not safe, well, you know, that might be something fisheries should look into. A lot of the boats are very good now. Back in my day, as I mentioned, there were a lot of wooden boats that were not safe and they got used up and a lot of people died on them. So the market quota system disincentivizes, they say that's not a word, but you understand, it penalizes the bad kinds of fishing. So let's just say on a small scallop bed in your town or my town, say, okay, what kind of dredges are you using? All right, I'm using the kinder, gentler dredge, and the bag is limited to a certain amount of weight, and the chafing on the bottom is limited because there's no chain bag. There are these plastic little pipes that hang down. Okay, so you're not doing the damage. Okay, so you get an incentive in the fisheries management marketplace for the fishing rights. Now there are a couple different markets here, or more than that. But simply put, for the seafood, there is a seafood market, wholesale market, retail market for the actual seafood when it gets caught and it comes ashore. But there's another seafood market, and that is the fisheries rights or fishery management system values. How do you want to put it? There's an appraised value for these permitted fishing rights now. And the bankers wouldn't loan you money to buy a boat if you didn't have the deed to catch the fish. And I think a lot of times these deeds to catch the fish are now worth 3 or 4 times what the boat is worth. They're extremely valuable. Doesn't do anything for the public, though, to have all this wealth, this public wealth consolidated into private hands. Bankers, the mafia, whatever. I remember once people told me, you better shut up, because back in the first days of this limited entry, it was the sea clammers and ocean quahoggers that got these fishing rights granted to them first. And some of these guys were dope smugglers. They made their money dope smuggling, a lot of the money. And that's, and I was told, you better shut up. Be careful, don't talk, you know. And it kind of makes you sick to be told that. You know, I don't know what kind of society we have with these fishery systems here. The way it goes now, people don't care about the values that have been absconded with in fisheries. People don't care about the high school kid who has no right to fish, no right to be a fisherman. Makes me sick, really does. So this future fisherman of America, or future fishermen of the world, or future fishermen of the Cape and the Islands, these different chapters, we really need it. You probably can model it on other organizations, but I would depend upon these kids to shake things up and say, look, you know, you don't have a right to these permits. I have a right to be a fisherman. I want these kids to say, you don't bless this system that I have no rights to be a fisherman with. You don't bless this system. This is evil, to give away fisheries to a certain few people. It really is evil and sinful as far as I'm concerned. But then again, I've always been opposed to it, and I never went along. And I've probably got a lot of writing on this on Fishfolk, which is an MIT chat room, a lot of writing archived on this subject with many people worldwide as these fishery systems were this morphing into something horrible, which is what we've got now. I don't like the council system. I think we should go with a system of a Congress of marine scientists and marine lab workers who would be your aquaculture workers producing the animals, the fish. And when I say animals, I could mean quahogs or scallops or lobster or codfish, but also kelp and eelgrass. I find the people that I've worked with at the Nantucket Marine Laboratory who can produce are the better people to be managers, and not the people who are foragers. Okay, you're foragers. You fishermen are foragers, basically. And that's unfortunate, because we need reef systems. We need cultivation. We need the sea farm system as an economic base, foundationally. And the sea farm system is another word for the market quota system, value price, and that means you run it like a farm, like pick your own strawberries. Okay, you're going out to catch codfish or lobster. You'll come in with a poundage, and then you'll pay for that poundage. You'll pay for the fishing rights value for that poundage. That money goes back into the system. It's a cash flow system, like a business. Hello? No. You don't want to run the fisheries like a business. You want to give away because you want to feel good. How do you feel? Do you feel good? You gave away fishing rights to a certain few people. Now do you feel good? We have no codfish. You should feel guilty. You are guilty. Cape Codders are guilty of bad fishery management. And I know one thing for sure. The Cape Cod Times, over the years, has helped you along in your stupid choices. Over the years, the fishing reporting on cutting-edge systems like mine, you know, they don't like the activist. They're a rich person's paper. They're big money people. They're party hack friendly. Senator Wolf got, brushed aside. And that was with the help of the Cape Cod Times. They were central to that. He is a very good man to be in politics. He should have been the governor, as far as I'm concerned. He was knocked out of politics. Like me, I feel as though I'm knocked out of politics with a psych diagnosis, multiple, like 7 of them, 8 of them. And I talked about a movie, 1717, to look at the long history that fight on Nantucket has. It's quite a piece of history. But I agree with the judges back in 1954, so I don't feel like I'm out there, I agree with Judge Carolyn Levine, who found that the salt ponds on Nantucket were the private property of the proprietors on Nantucket. There was such a long history and precedent for that. I gotta get more documentation on that for you all. There was an article in 1954 regarding the Stojack and Cabral case, which I need to present here. And also there's later documentation. This was a very real issue, and the state of Massachusetts just went nuts. Sometimes they do. Like the Pelletier case, if you're familiar with that, and Howie Carr talked about that quite a bit, the Pelletier case. Sometimes the state goes nuts. What they do is nuts. That's why I believe in local controls for the town nurse-based systems and all. I don't like these huge bureaucracies. Now, the market quota system, as it relates to the future fishermen of America, would be a good thing, because the market quota system works equally well locally, regionally, on a statewide basis, not so much, but locally, federally, and internationally. Yeah, I've mentioned before, but I really don't believe in a little ribbon of control that these states hold. And that should be absorbed into local, probably. And then the state systems, like our Division of Marine Fisheries, who stuck up for me while all this pond stuff was going on. And I thank them for that, but they weren't powerful enough. They got overpowered by the kind of kooky liberals that kind of make mistakes because they're nutty. Anyway, the market quota system as it relates to the future fishermen in America would be very good, because locally you can get a group of people and manage an area. And you could put all this energy, youthful energy, into oyster beds, cultivating eelgrass, expanding the fisheries. And I know I used to build my own conch pots and fish for conch when I was a boy. And I had my own boat as a commercial fisherman, I think at age 15 or so. But, before I drove a car, I'd have to, steam all the way into Chatham and sell my conchs, which I wasn't a successful fisherman at that age. But these kids should have the first crack at the conch fishery, for instance. It should be part of their upbringing to be fishermen and to have conch pots and make your own conch pots and sell your conch. And, for the local economy, these kids can really drive our Cape Cod and southern Massachusetts economy with the scallops, the bay scallops. And we can revive these scallop fisheries very quickly if we do things right. We're doing nothing right, really. And we're concentrating a lot of efforts into private aquaculture, using all this little hand gear and these, maybe it does work, but it doesn't work that well. It doesn't work as well as a sea farm system, public aquaculture, public works aquaculture, using the entire bed that you've got before you, Mother Nature, all the acreage, not a little spot. So these future fishermen of America can be important additives for saving the world's oceans. I really do know that. But they need an education on what to push for. And I've worked out these systems over many, many years in my life. And I've been persecuted for it. a lot of the fishermen over the years, since I don't believe in the giveaways for fisheries, when they would even see me, sometimes the hackles would go up, because it'd be like, I'm after your personal property. You know, you've gotten the fishing rights from the government, and now here comes a guy who doesn't like that. Now you're affecting someone's personal property, which was public property, but now you own it, and here's someone who's complaining about it, and it gets personal. And that was true on Nantucket. It was true over the years on Fish Folk. A lot of fishermen took it very, very personally that I would be, you know, after their money, after their livelihood and their personal money, which I have always believed in equal opportunity in fisheries, but they don't. So the market quota system is equal opportunity. It's all green. It's a very green fishing system. It's a fishery management system, not a fishing system. To correct myself there, it's a fisheries management system. And these kids will get into it, hopefully. Start up here on Cape Cod. Future Fishermen of America, we need it. We need these kids to look at things and to set us straight here, because we have failed. Cape Codders have failed. All right, that's enough of that. How about the bridge on a stick? I'm making a little headway with that. This involved a Cape Cod bridge and, you know, new thinking on that. So I'm making some headway on that. And I'm also making some headway on the other projects, such as the Pilgrim Evacuation System. And so that's really shaping up. So I'm going to do some more shows on that before I head down to Florida. And I want my boat to be held by the Future Fishermen of America. And all my tools and that old truck, I'd like it if you guys would take that. And I can help fundraise for you. I'm doing a lot of work now. Right now, my latest project is Florida ditches and to reconfigure the water systems for Florida since I was down there. Believe it or not, I was working on that earlier, years ago, when, because I have lived there for short, brief periods of time. So that's a new project. I want to unveil that. And I want to run for president based on the New York tolls that I just paid. My wife and I, Pam and I, we're going through. It's terrible. So anyway, that's it. That's the show for today. That's the Scannell agenda. I'll do my next show on that other stuff there. Thank you for watching the Scannell agenda.